Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Contour Community Meeting. Today is April 7th or April 8th, depending on where you live. And yeah, we have had a brief hiatus here of the community meetings. Now we're rebooting again here in April. And yeah, we want to talk about what we've been working on. So I'm going to share my screen here so you can see the agenda throughout the session here. And then I'm going to kick it all over to Nick to start.
Hi everyone. Well, I guess we should talk about first things what we've been working on. Probably the first notable announcement, as you can see in the agenda, is that with the departure of Dave Cheney from the team, I have taken up the tech lead position, which means that I'm the one who's responsible for making sure that things are supportable and usable, and that releases happen on time and all that sort of stuff from the engineering side. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to do that work.
And
Um,
one other thing to note on that, by the way, folks, is that we have formalized the roles of everybody in the Contour team, especially in the development team. So we have a list of maintainers, and the maintainers are listed in our website as well, where Jonas is furiously running to. So Nick Young, besides being the tech lead, he's also a maintainer of Contour, and so is James, Steve, and myself. And Dave is an emeritus maintainer for all his contributions that he has made to Contour so far. Go ahead, Nick.
Thanks, Michael. So yeah, and I guess the other big thing that's happened since we last had a meeting, as Jonas said, is that we released Contour 1.3. So this release was our usual monthly release. So because it's about monthly, we don't do themes or anything like that. But this one, we ended up with a bit of a theme of removing some deprecated things and fixing a bunch of other sort of real issues rather than delivering big new features. So it was more of a stability release. As you can see, the first one is that we removed the extensions v1 beta ingress. So now you need to remove that before you try and start Contour, obviously. But the big thing there is that we've also removed extensions v1 beta 1 API group support for the Ingress object. What does that mean? Well, the Ingress object has had a history. It started out in an API group called extensions / and the version was v1 beta 1. And that Ingress object was moved to networking.cates.io at version v1 beta 1. And the API server now will, since about, I think it was 1.13 or something like that, will transparently convert between those two objects for you. So if you're running any of the supported Contour version, Kubernetes versions with Contour, then it doesn't matter which one you use. So if you publish a extensions ingress, it will be stored in the API server's database as a networking ingress. So we have, because of that, we've removed all of the code that refers to the extensions types using the Go types. And in preparation for migrating Contour to using the actual GA ingress object, which will itself be GA in 1.19, I think is when it will finally be fully GA. So we'll start using that object once the release that first introduced it is the last one that's in support. And so at that point, you will need to upgrade to a supported Kubernetes version to be able to use Ingress at all in Contour. But you should really be doing that anyway. So next, we renamed the TCP proxy include field. This was just a thing where it was called includes because it was the same name. That was the name that we had for the other types. But in TCP proxy, there's only one. You can only have one include. So this name is clearer. Thanks very much for that, Steve. We've also got a couple of other things there. So HTTP proxies that don't have at least one service per route will be deemed invalid and won't be written into Contour. And Contour will also now do a better job of gracefully shutting down when you get a SIG int or a SIG term. So it will shut down all the things that has started properly. Thanks to Dave Chaney for that one. As you can see, there's a bunch of other minor improvements, but most of the minor improvements are small bug fixes and so on. So that's sort of, as I said, 1.3, not a huge release, but just all about stability and fixing problems. So I guess probably, unless anyone has any questions, I should move on to talk about some of the stuff that might be coming in 1.4. Yeah, okay. Well, right now the stuff that we're talking about for 1.4 is we are hoping to deliver a couple of features there. One of which I put in the issue discussion section as well later on, but this one I may as well talk about it now because it should be delivered in 1.4, and that is Ingress status. The Ingress status is a feature that Contour has been missing for a while. That's that when you create an Ingress object, most Ingress controllers will update a section of the status of that Ingress with the IP address or domain name of the place that you can connect to actually get that. As you can see there, that's what the status should look like. This status stands under the expected column on the ticket. This has been a bit of a journey because we hadn't done a bunch of stuff that we needed to do to be able to do this, but most of that code reorganization has happened now. The support for that is currently, for this feature in a basic way, is currently in master. In master, as we stand right now, it has support for the example deployment only, pretty much. I have one more issue outstanding, as you can see there, to 2387, which will allow a user to manually specify what should be put into that rather than intuiting it from the Envoy service. Once that's done, then I consider this feature to be done, and it'll make it into 1.4. That should be done in the next couple of days. So what this means for users is that you'll be able to use any Ingress objects managed by Contour with things like external DNS and anything else, and the draft Ingress conformance tests and anything else that requires this Ingress status load balancer value to be set. I think external DNS is probably the big one. So that's probably the main one that I've been working on. The other things that we have been working on are a bunch of stuff around, and Jonas, if you could go to the 1.4.
Yeah, you want to go to the project board really quickly? Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Yep. Project board. Yep. So the other stuff that we've got that should land in 1.4 is the support for external client certificate validation. Now that one says MTLS, and it's important to clarify here that this is not MTLS as in the sense of a service mesh where you're talking about rapidly, frequently changing service-to-service authentication. The TLS that's being introduced is the ability for a browser client to specify a client certificate that will then be required in order to connect to a specific Ingress route or HTTP Ingress or HTTP proxy route. So that work has been mainly done by Tero Sani, which we very much appreciate. He's been doing a lot of great work there to actually get this happening. So this PR is almost finished. James and Tero have been working on this one. It should be done soon. When that happens, then basically, this issue covers that's visible on the screen now, covers documenting the feature. But the idea is that if you want to be able to use a client certificate authentication, authentication is the correct thing here, that you can verify that a client is who they say they are, and require that to be able to connect to a specific service, you will now be able to use Contour to do that. It is not currently able to be used for authorization because Contour is kind of like the front door, and authorization is what happens after you get in the front door. That's authentication. And so authorization really needs to be delegated to your service. Your service should be checking the like details about the thing. So, and that is not built yet. So right now, this will give you some basic authentication, but it does not do authorization. That is to be done. I guess other things that I can see that we have worked on so far. We've upgraded to Go 114, or we are planning to upgrade to Go 114. And the one that I will be picking up after I finish setting addresses on Ingress resources is figuring out if we can do a similar thing for HTTP proxy resources as well. That's that last one in that column there. That one I'm hoping to get to soon because it's relatively small now that we've done the Ingress, the main Ingress status work. But yeah, if we could go back to the project board for a second, have a look in there. I'm not sure what else will make it into the next release. I think there's been some. What else have we got in progress, Jonas? Yeah, so we've got some work happening as well on separating. If you scroll down a little bit, Jonas, on separating the health and metric services. We've been careful here to ensure that there's a backwards compatibility, so that if you are upgrading your Contour version by changing the version in your deployment, then this won't break you. But the idea here is that if you want to be able to have a separate listener for metrics and health check, then you can do that. Yeah, so that's we decided that was a reasonable feature, and we've been figuring out how to do that and get it happen. So I think those are sort of the main features that we've got on the plate right now, unless there is something else that makes it in.
There's a completed column too, if you want to go over to that.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, so now that we have the automation, you can actually see with 1.4
Yep.
how many things we finished, which is pretty awesome.
Yep. That is very awesome. Yeah, so we've done a bunch of background work as well to fix some background things about our build process and the Docker images. James has been doing great work there. Yeah, and then we've had a few contributions from people to update some documentation. And
I just love that title here. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yes, but yes, C10 has requested the change and also been the change and fixed up the issue as well. And Steve, you worked on the so if you could just scroll back up a bit. Thanks, Jonas. Steve, you worked on the did you do the duplicate slashes in the past thing, Steve?
Yeah. So if you had a request that was like /foo //bar, Contour wouldn't route properly because it didn't match the path. It's like an explicit match. So there's a flag in Envoy that you can say, hey, if you see the double slash, just merge it out and replace it with just a single slash. Okay. So if somehow the request comes in and has duplicate slashes, then this will resolve that. Now it will actually route. Yeah,
I seem to recall something about us having left that behavior in because of the way that prefix rewrite worked, but I think it's probably better to operate by principle of least surprise there and accept that double slashes mean a single slash in most cases.
I don't think there's any prefix rewrite dependencies there.
Okay, cool.
And then the other thing is Peter Grant also merged the Contour version in the metrics. That was 2383.
Yes,
so
thank you.
I think the Ingress class stuff's probably good to call out too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. You want to walk through that, Steve?
Yeah. So that issue there, that 2199. So Contour in Ingress, or the generic Ingress spec, you can define a Ingress class. And what this does is it allows multiple controllers to exist in your cluster. So you could have, like Contour as an Ingress controller and Nginx as one, or run multiple versions of Contour if you wanted to have that for a whole bunch of reasons. The problem comes is that if you, even if you've defined an Ingress class on Contour, so say, hey, I'm only going to process an Ingress class called, Steve. It still processed any object that matched that class, as well as any object that didn't have a class on it, so it didn't have the annotation. So it's kind of confusing. So you would have, you're setting this explicit way Contour should function, but it still grabs other resources that don't have the annotation. So starting in 1.4, once this ships, if you set an Ingress class on Contour, it'll only look at those objects that have that class that match. Anything else will be ignored.
Very cool. Did we add any tests on this as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
there should be tests all through, yeah.
Cool.
Yes, there are a bunch of tests added on this. There is an important caveat to that, though, that in the case that you don't specify an Ingress class, the way Contour currently behaves is that if you don't specify an Ingress class, there are actually two valid options, or three: not specifying an Ingress class at all, specifying a blank Ingress class, or specifying Contour, the word, as the Ingress class. And so for backwards compatibility, we have kept all three of those options. So now if when you run Contour, there's a command line flag that you can pass to it that specifies what Ingress class that instance of Contour should use. If you don't specify that, then there are three ways that Ingress objects can be used by a default Contour like that. One, not having an Ingress class annotation. Two, having a blank Ingress class annotation. Or three, having an Ingress class annotation that is the word Contour. And so then, if you then edit your Contour deployment and add the command line flag to specify the Contour Ingress class, only the ingresses with an annotation set to the exact value Contour will be applied.
Okay, so I'll beg the question here is, where are we going to document all this?
I was going to ask about docs as well, so that the time leap.
Because we don't have, we've definitely got back burner plans to do like a big document overhaul, but I mean, I guess they're still back burner, and we don't have a good place to put. We don't have a good place currently to describe this sort of behavior in a useful amount of detail.
I think at the very least is when we actually merge a change like this is we update the docs just to put a few sentences just to describe this, right? It doesn't have to be super lengthy, and we can update it later with an action item, but at the very least, we should make some small update.
But there's nowhere to actually put these at the moment. There's no place to put that sentence right now with the way we have the docs laid out today.
Yeah. So what it really needs is we do have a ticket open to document the command line flags. Sorry.
Bless you.
Yeah. I think once we document the command line flags, then that would be a good place to put that sentence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the command line flags documentation is the place to put that in the first instance. I would say for now we can probably put some reference to it in the annotations page as well, because the Ingress class annotation is documented in the annotations page. So I'll take an action item to do that.
Thanks, Nick. All right, since we only have 8 minutes, let's move on to the next action item on the agenda.
I think that's you, Michael.
All right, cool. So a quick update. In the TOC meeting today, Sikh Network, we had a discussion, and from a Sikh Network standpoint, the due diligence is complete. They're essentially done, and they are waiting for two things. They're waiting for someone to write it down, and there's some artifacts that need to be produced that usually I produce them in the past for other Sikhs. I don't know if they will end up producing them or me. And the last thing is Matt Klein and I had a discussion along with Amy as well. Some of that discussion was offline, some of it was through emails, but essentially we used to have 3 sponsors when we initially went for donation to CNCF: Alexis, Matt Klein, and Joe Beda. 2 of those people are no longer in the TOC, so they can't sponsor us. So Red Hat was pushing that, hey, you need to go find new sponsors. The answer is, from a private thread between me, Matt, and Joe, is that no, we don't. Leave us alone. And we're going directly to incubation that doesn't have any sponsorship requirements. So in a roundabout way, the process ended up working for us a little bit. So Matt Klein is going to finish his review within the next 2-3 days. When Matt tells me I'm going to do it in the next couple of days, this was on Friday, it really means a week and a half, plus minus. So when Matt is done, we will submit it up for a vote. So assume the Sikh Network, their next meeting is, I believe, next Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. They canceled the meeting from a couple of days ago, so I think the next meeting is on the 16th. Yep, it is on the 16th. We should be able to go up for a vote the day after. All the rest of the items have been buttoned up.
Awesome.
So, Contour is getting close.
That's great news.
Very great.
All right, that's it. Next one, issue discussion.
I think I talked about 403 already.
Oh, you talk about that. Okay.
Yep. Does anyone else have any other issues they'd like to discuss?
All right. Then that's it for today's meeting, this week's meeting. Per usual now, we're going to rotate. We're going to do every first and third week is going to be in the morning over in Australia, 6:30 p.m. here on the East Coast in the US, and 3:30 over on the West Coast. And then every second and fourth Tuesday, we'll have it in, I think it's at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. With that, yeah, sorry, Nick, did you have something?
I was going to say, yeah, I think that's like 3:30 in the morning my time or something. Like
Yeah.
that. I read it as unlikely that I'll be at most of this call.
Yeah. Yeah, per usual, this will be up on YouTube soon as well. And with that, thank you all for joining, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.